So previous to the Night 2 being released, there were some updates, including the change of the thumbnail from the, I guess, the electroshocker, fallen or void electroshocker, into the thumbnail that actually presented in the video as like sort of a thing that the developers may have deleted due to, like, for some reason, for some leaks due to the boss being there. They've updated it now to actually show this boss, or what appears to be a boss. So we're going to assume that this is actually going to be part of Night 2. Now, I also got many people saying that the Jester Tower was on sale previous to the Halloween Night 1 release. That is indeed true. It was released on the 1st of October 2025, a full week or 2 weeks before the Null and Void event, Night 1 was released. Now, despite the fact that Night 2 isn't being released, you can see here it's got 38 minutes and 47 seconds left. The thing is, we're in v1.78.0, so there is actually been an update and a couple of updates, including the live television here being removed. But if you go to the back of it, you can see, yes, it still exists. Furthermore, they've actually updated this area of the lobby, so instead of elevators, which many people were actually complaining about, the developers replaced it with one matchmaking statue. So if I were to play it, and I were to use like one of these things, so you can see solo, duo, trio, or quad, the developers seem to have reneged, I guess, on their decision to use elevators rather than a matchmaking statue for the knights, and I assume for Night 2, once that's released, that will be also a statue. Furthermore, they have added descriptions for this, so it's here, it's for easy, it says just for fun, and then for hard, it says Commander, is that you? So, I don't know why, because the Commander appears in both, but that's, I guess, why they have the same icon. But it's very interesting that they were actually to revert the elevators to a matchmaking statue that they've used for other previous events. Interesting runes on this Commander statue as well. I'm not sure if this is like a callback to like the hardcore lobby, if anyone remembers that. They had runes on that one as well that you could interact with, except, well, you could just click on it. They really didn't do much. I guess from the statistics that the developers had, not that many players in comparison to matchmaking were using the elevators, and actually, anecdotally, I heard from a lot of players that it was very hard to get a team to do, like, say, hard mode in the Null and Void event, because that forces people to go over to these elevators here, and like this method still does force people to go into this part of the lobby and complete Night 1. However, with that being said, you were limited to the amount of players in your server which you could join with, whereas with matchmaking, you theoretically had every single person in Tower Defense Simulator that you could potentially join with. Speaking of which, the developers have now actually increased the server size for lobbies to 50. I think previously, before v1.78.0, it used to be 45, but now they've increased it by 5 more to 50. I don't know why they've increased it by 5 more. I guess they wanted a nice round number. I don't know, someone may be autistic, and that's rude. Someone may not like the number 45 and they thought 50 was a good number. 45 was the original number, but I guess the developers reduced it down to 30 or something like that once matchmaking took hold on Tower Defense Simulator to reduce the amount of lag that people get in the lobby. Now, within the updates that I've not talked about, the developers have made a lot of bug fixes, but they haven't added it to the update log, assuming that Halloween staff takes priority on that. But they have fixed Pizza Party, because previously the Lost Souls icon would appear at all times for Pizza Party. I'm not sure if Lost Souls was actually triggered every single time, but as you can see here, I have Pizza Party, I have Mutation, I have Blood, and stuff like that, but I don't have Lost Souls, which was automatically activated previously. Worth a mention that I don't have the towers to activate the Lost Souls ability or the Lost Souls modifier, so obviously it still works, it's just that it's not automatically activated when you don't have the requisite towers to actually beat it. Meanwhile, as for the Ghost Commander, there used to be an issue that at certain levels, the Ghost Commander did not have its gun when you upgraded it. However, the developers, they have now fixed it so that it has its gun at all levels, as you can see here. Now, there's also a change to the shotgunner. Now, I am using the Null shotgunner here, but the developers have fixed it, seemingly. So, there is, well, I guess there was an issue, but the shotgunner used to be able to generate an infinite amount of fireworks because of its pierce. I say infinite, a multiple amount of fireworks, because unlike something like the Halloween, which is able to generate an infinite amount of fireworks depending on the amount of enemies that it hits, the shotgunner has a limited amount of pierce with its bullets. However, in this case, because the developers found the piercing ability for the shotgunner to be quite OP, given the fact that at max level, the shotgun, I believe, shoots out 10 shots? 12 pellets, yeah, so 12 pellets. That means that the shotgunner effectively has 12 chances on the firework buff being applied to the enemy. Essentially meaning that because of its pierce as well, hitting multiple enemies, yeah, the shotgunner has a large potential of dealing firework buff damage from the firework technician. The developers, however, found this a little bit too OP, so the developers have decided to remove the firework technician and shotgunner synergy, or, well, the ability for the firework technician to buff the shotgunner in terms of the firework buff. It's still able to receive other detections at the start of every wave, but is unable to receive the firework buff. Now again, that's very interesting given that other towers that have an infinite amount of pierce, such as the Halopunk, theoretically, I mean obviously there's going to be a hard-coded limit in the Roblox thing, but for sakes and purposes, for on-paper measurements, it's an infinite amount. Those towers, they have not been nerfed in terms of not using the firework buff that the firework technician can provide. So it's very interesting that the developers have decided that the shotgunner is a tower that's a little bit too OP with the firework technician, yet the Halopunk isn't. I guess the Halopunk isn't used as much as the shotgunner, even though I've not really seen that many people abuse, quote, this bug with the firework technician and the shotgunner to easily cheese out some of the early game or even like the late game stuff, because it's just that the shotgunner's range isn't too big. I mean, yes, it's 12.65 for me because I have the skills for that, but it's not like it's going to be that OP having a large amount of fireworks, because like the firework technician's buff isn't that much of an increase. It's not like 100% DPS increase, it's more like a 25%, which I guess could be used, but the developers have decided no, that's a little bit too OP, so fair enough. What the developers have also done is they've also changed the UI for the abilities. So as you can see here, these abilities, they have a 1 beside them, and if you were to use them, you'll see that the countdown, instead of it showing a number on the big screen, it has a decreasing outbox to show how long it takes for it to regenerate. And obviously the cache text still shows up as red when you can't activate it, which is actually very similar to how the Commando uses its ability, because with its missile ability, it has 4 uses, as you can see here, except on the UI it shows 1, which is very misleading. Here it shows 4, so I guess it's not fully fixed for the Commando, and like it's broken still. It says the missile ability is out of ammo, yet it's not counted down to anything. It now says 0, so yeah, this is kind of bugged still, but at least they've updated the UI, so it's not a big black number that's just like covering the entire box. Although with that being said, with that method, you could actually easily track the amount of abilities that you have, but also which abilities that you could use, whereas now it's a little hard to tell, apart from when the text turns to green, and then there's like a slight delay between the 0 turning into the 1, indicating the usage of the ability. Next is seemingly an issue with the flames that come out from the Pyromancer. So apparently the flames that come out of it, they shoot upwards, although I guess not seemingly for this Pyromancer because there's its own special unique fireball. So, from the Pyromancer, you can see that the flame effect shoots upwards, as you can see here. That is a glitch. It's meant to face forward, as such seen here, and apparently before this update, this flame was also broken. Furthermore, there have been some issues with the Pyromancer, not including the shooting upwards flame, but also the fact that it could create a giant fireball around the Pyromancer, which is very interesting. It would be very cool. Now, upon release, the Soldier Tower, it didn't actually have any attacking animations. However, the developers, they did decide to bug fix this in v1.77.3, so 3 shadow updates after the initial release, and they have fixed the soldier's attack animation, which now properly plays. Additionally, upon release, there was an issue with the shotgunner, which meant that it actually wasn't able to face the towers or face the enemies that it shot at. However, it looks like the developers have fixed this issue. So, upon release, there was a lot of issues with towers and their attacking animations. Right, next in this update, what the developers have also done is they've added the event consumables back, or some new event consumables, into consumable crates. So for example, as you can see here, Necromancer's Tomb and the Unholy Storm, they've been added to the high grade crate, but in the low grade crate, you'll notice that the Turkey Leg returns, but also the Sugar Rush returns, as well as the Pumpkin Bomb. Now, it's not just the case where you can get these through consumable crates, Pumpkin Bombs being especially important, given that many people are missing a lot of Pumpkin Bombs. Also, they appear in the high-grade crates, because they also appear at the end of Triumphs in game modes. The amount of consumables and the chance of the consumables depends on the game mode, but in general, you can also get the Unholy Storm and the Necromancer's Tomb from game modes as well for their Triumph reward. In easy mode, you notice here that there is a 1 to 2 Turkey Leg, 1 to 2 Pumpkin Bomb for the common stuff. So given the fact there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 items in the common stuff, there's a 10% chance of getting the turkey leg and a 10% chance of getting the pumpkin bomb. As for uncommon, there are 3 items here, so there's a 10% chance of getting the sugar rush between 1 and 2 amounts. Whereas for the unholy storm and the necromancer's tomb, you'll notice that they are the rare, so there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 options here, so 20 divided by 6, it's around 3.33%. So for the unholy storm, there is a 3.33% chance of getting it, as well as for the Necromancer's Tomb, there's also a 3.33% chance of getting an easy mode. Interestingly enough, they've also, apparently, removed some of the other consumables that you could get. So, for example, the Sandcastle consumable, that was removed from the rewards for easy mode. Casual mode is a similar story. They removed Sandcastle from the rare, but they've added Unholy Storm and Necromancer's Tomb, 1 to 3 of those. I think there's more options here, so there's actually 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 of those, so it's actually a slightly lesser chance of getting the Unholy Storm and the Necromancer's Tomb in casual mode. Whereas in uncommon mode, there is still the same 10% chance of getting the Sugar Rush, but you get more of those, so 2 to 4. Whereas in common, there is a 50% chance of getting 5 items, so that's a 10% chance of each, but you get more of those, so 2 to 4 in turkey legs in casual mode and 2 to 4 pumpkin bombs in casual mode as well. In intermediate mode, the heat wave consumable and the sandcastle consumable are also removed, whereas the turkey leg and pumpkin bomb have been added to common, so that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So actually, there's actually a slightly less chance of getting the turkey leg and pumpkin bombs in in intermediate mode, because there are more items here. I think the timescale ticket and the revive ticket. And actually, seemingly, you get more items from casual mode than you do from intermediate mode, even though intermediate mode is the harder game mode. Not too sure why. Actually, it also looks like that Sandcastle and Heatwave have not been removed from intermediate mode, which is very interesting. I said that they were, they actually aren't. The Unholy Storm and Necromancer's Tomb have been added to rare in intermediate mode as well, but there's a lesser chance of getting it. Plus, I think you get less here. Yeah, so you get 1 to 3 in casual mode, but 1 to 2 in intermediate mode, which makes no sense. As for Molten Mode, the Heatwave and Sandcastle consumables have been removed from Molten Mode, but interestingly enough, the Turkey Leg and Pumpkin Bombs, there's 2 to 4 of those. Sugar Rush, there's 1 to 3 of those in uncommon, and the Unholy Storm, 2 to 3 in the rare, and 2 to 3 Necromancer's Tomb in the rare as well. Although, looking at the amount of items that you can get, there's actually a slightly lesser chance of getting each individual item compared to, say, easy mode or even casual mode. Meanwhile, as for Fallen Mode, the Molten Monster, interestingly enough, has been removed as a item that you can get as a reward for triumphing Fallen Mode. So, at least in terms of Fallen Mode, you can't get the Molten Monster. It also looks like the high grade consumable has been promoted, I guess, from rare to legendary, whereas the nuke has been removed as well. But you still get the Heat Wave, and then you still get Sandcastle from Fallen Mode, okay. 1 to 3 Turkey Legs instead of 2 to 4. That's interesting. Pumpkin Bomb 1 to 3 in Fallen Mode as well. Sugar Rush 1 to 3. Unholy Storm 1 to 2. Necromancer's Tomb 1 to 2. So Molten Mode, interesting enough, has better rewards than Fallen Mode. Again, it doesn't make sense why Intermediate Mode has worse rewards compared to Casual Mode, and Fallen Mode has worse rewards compared to Molten Mode. And then in Hardcore Mode, it's a mess. You don't actually get any additional rewards for the Halloween consumables that we've seen previously. As for Polluted Wastelands 2 rewards, interesting enough, all of the special maps, I think they have pretty similar rewards. I'll have to check that. Yeah, it does look pretty similar, but interesting enough, they used to have the Fruitcake consumable, which was around since it was added in the Operation Ice event, for like an item that you can get from Polluted Wastelands 2, Badlands 2, and Pizza Party. But in this update, the developers have removed it. They replaced it with the Turkey Leg, which, interesting enough, you can get 3 to 6 of those. Pumpkin Bomb, 3 to 6 of those as well. Sugar Rush, 3 to 6 of those. Necromancer's Tomb, 3 to 5 of those. The Unholy Storm, 3 to 5 of those. And the Molten Monster still appears here. So yes, interesting enough, if you want to grind out these new Halloween consumables, I think the best option is to play a special map, probably Pizza Party, given that's the easiest one. Or Badlands 2. I think actually Badlands 2 is now the easiest one. Now, interestingly enough, the developers have also added gifting for towers in Tower Defense Simulator, but it's broken. As you can see here, invalid gift. It doesn't work. They've also weirdly decided to make only the slasher icon bigger. Where is the Halopunk even here? I don't think the Halopunk is even here, which is very interesting. You can't gift the Halopunk at all. Nor can you gift the Jester. Yeah, not here. Oh wait, never mind. It is here, so let's see. You cannot gift an item to this player because this player already has the item. That should be the case, but as you can see here, it's an invalid gift. I don't know if the developer product is actually set up for that. Now, for the new-ish consumables, we have, firstly, the Turkey Leg. I mean, obviously, these are returning consumables, sorry, from the previous Hexscape event, but the Turkey Leg, what it does is that you can eat it and it regenerates 15 health. Actually, I think this was the first consumable to be added to the game, which actually healed the base. 6 turkey legs per game can be used per player, and it has a 10-second cooldown and a 10-second starting cooldown as well. Meanwhile, the Sugar Rush will give towers a 40% fire rate buff for between 10 to 30 seconds, and after that it will receive a 40% fatigue debuff, which duration is half of the fire rate buff duration. So it seems to be random between 10 and 30 seconds, but then after that towers would actually receive a 40% fatigue debuff, which increases the fire rates, meaning that towers shoot faster. So you're doing a 40% fire rate buff at the start before receiving a 40% fire rate debuff, effectively meaning that you should be timing the debuff so that it falls in between waves if you need to beat a particular wave, for example. I don't know, to be fair, what wave you could probably think that for. However, interestingly, we have the Pumpkin Bomb. This is the bomb that everyone is, this is the consumable that everyone is well known for, because it has 3 possibilities for a positive thing, but 3 possibilities for a negative thing. So, with this, enemies can receive the bloated attribute, doubling their current and maximum health. Enemies could receive the nimble attribute, doubling their speed, and enemies could receive the health regen attributes, making them regen 2% of their maximum health every 2 seconds. Whereas the possible debuffs that can be applied to enemies, frozen for 2 seconds and defense reduced by 20%. Enemies could have hidden and aggro attributes removed from them, and most famously of all, during the Operation Ice event, if applied to a siege engine, it would gain 50,000 health, and the god and no target attributes would be removed. And the last one would be enemies receive 3 bleed debuff stacks with 0.37 exponential value, 2 base bleed damage, and 10 max stacks. Meanwhile, as for the new consumable, there are two new consumables that have been added recently in this event, namely the Necromancer's Tomb and the Unholy Storm. So the first thing we'll talk about is the Necromancer's Tomb. Actually, I just realized I'm spawning in billions of those. Anyways, for the Necromancer's Tomb, if you were to use it, for the next 10 seconds, any enemy you killed will spawn in one of the Necromancer's units at random. Okay, so we are now using it. This is it. And I think does it have to be in the range of that? Oh no, it doesn't. Okay, so when you kill all these enemies, as you can see, it spawns in a whole bunch of units at the back. You have skeletons here, you have a sword skeleton here, which is very cool, and these obviously help you out in defeating the enemies, the mountain of ducks that you see here. Actually, I think this is better combined with, say, the mortar, a tower that can kill multiple enemies at the same time. So yeah, the mortar's probably the way to go for this, or splash damage towers if you know, like, there's a whole bunch of enemies coming up. Yeah, as you can see, yeah, combined with an explosive tower that can spawn in multiple units, yeah, pretty good. So the skeleton has a 70% chance of spawning in, the sword skeleton has a 20% chance, the skeleton knight has a 5% chance, the giant skeleton has a 2% chance, the Hallow Guard has a 2% chance, the executioner skeleton has a 1% chance. I've only seen one executioner skeleton out of everything that's shown off here. I don't even see a dead body for an executioner skeleton either. Additionally, some forms of damage can't some of them. So, for example, damage from the Chiromancer's Chillness is unable to generate any skeletons. Units, whether they come from the Necromancer's Tomb or another tower, cannot summon enemies. And consumables, like the grenade, are incapable of creating skeletons as well. So yeah, even though, you know, you spawn in a whole bunch of units, especially with something like the mortar, it's really somewhat of a gimmick, because I think most of the time there's not that many enemies to actually take advantage of this, and especially on like the final wave of a boss wave, for example, you're not spawning in that many enemies with this. Now, meanwhile, for the Unholy Storm, it releases a Burning Plague to all enemies for 25 seconds, dealing burn and poison damage over time while reducing enemy defense and speed. So, let's see this in action. Actually, it's probably not a good one to use. So, the Unholy Storm, it has the same animation as the Necromancer's Tomb. As you can see, causes poison debuff, and it would slow them down, apparently. Now, this is for 25 seconds, so actually, it lasts a pretty long time. The burn debuff will last 10 seconds. The burn debuff will deal 10 damage and drop 20% defense every 0.25 tick. So, it's a good way of reducing defense of enemies. It does not work with any enemy, though, with the burn immunity. It lasts for 6 seconds, though the consumable itself is longer. It'll keep replying itself multiple times. The poison debuff is actually supposed to deal 10 damage every 0.25 tick and make enemies walk 25% slower. However, due to bugs, it actually doesn't deal any damage. Most of the damage that comes from the Unholy Storm is actually, funnily enough, from the burn debuff. And also, it doesn't really matter where you place these consumables, even though it looks like you create a circle, and it's like whenever you kill an enemy inside that circle, it causes the debuff to be applied. No, it's not the case. It is universal, as you can see here. Due to the burn and poisons being reapplied, the effects actually last for 29.25 seconds, so nearly a half a minute. and the total amount of damage that the consumable should do for the Unholy Storm should be 2,340, but due to the bugs, it only deals 1,170. So yeah, currently broken, but still, I can see it be quite useful. Well, against a horde of like weaker enemies. Against a horde of boss enemies, I don't think it's going to be as useful. But yeah, that's what event consumables I think are. They're kind of gimmicky, but can somewhat be useful. Apart from the pumpkin bomb during Operation Ice, where people were running out of those left, right, and center.